This morning, we're learning President Obama will use tonight's State of the Union address to announce an executive order on the minimum wage. The order will raise the minimum wage for federal contract workers to $10.10 an hour. And in a preview of tonight's remarks, he's calling on Congress to raise the minimum pay for everyone.
The president's top advisors say he will use more executive orders and other measures if Congress is uncooperative. Denis McDonough is the president's chief of staff. He joins us this morning from the White House. Good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Nora.
Let me start with what the president will say tonight in terms of the minimum wage and ask Congress to do more. How high does he want the minimum wage to go?
Well, what he will say for federal contractors is it should be $10.10 an hour, and there's a proposal in both the House and Senate to do that across the board, not just for contractors, but for the federal minimum wage across the board. So we think $10.10 an hour is the way to go. Nobody who works full-time and works hard at their job should live in poverty. We think $10.10 an hour allow them to do that.
There is also this talk out of Washington that the president and his staff, and you included, and the cabinet looked at 2013 and looked at the problems you had with Congress and said, we're going to go the direction of executive orders, and that's how we'll regain our own agenda. Is that the way you would characterize it?
Well, thanks, Charlie. It's not really a question of looking at Congress. It's a question of looking at the American people and trying to make sure that there's opportunity, an optimistic opportunity and action for every American. So as we sit here and try to make sure that there's access to good paying jobs, high-tech manufacturing, retirement security for Americans, rather than sit and wait for Congress to take action, we're going to go ahead and roll out on our own using the president's authorities. We'll look to work with Congress where we can, but I think as we've seen over the last several years now, Congress sometimes is a little slow to action. We're not going to wait for that because we believe the American people are looking for concrete, realistic proposals to see the kind of progress and opportunity for everybody.
But, Denis, you would acknowledge you still need Congress, though, to make major changes in the law. That's the way the system is set up. I went back and looked at the president's State of the Union address from 2013. Then he called for an increase in the minimum wage. Nothing. Last year, he called for immigration reform. Nothing. Last year, he called for new gun control measures. Nothing. Is tonight's address more of a wish list than a to-do list?
Well, I think if you look back to the last year, I think you saw some important things, an important advance on a bipartisan proposal on immigration reform through the Senate that would dramatically grow the economy and reduce the deficit over the course of time. You also saw, even while Congress was not taking action on the things that you said, you saw us taking a lot of action last year. We produced more energy in this country, more oil in this country than we imported for the first time in 20 years.
Was that the
has
White
a dramatic
House that did
impact. No, that's on the work of the American workers and companies, along with the administration's all of the above energy strategy that said, hey, let's make sure that we're getting access to all energy that we can.
It is also said that the president knows that midterm elections are coming up and that talk about the presidential campaign will begin earnestly right after those elections. And so this is his last chance, his best State of the Union opportunity to allow for his vision and the legacy he hopes to recapture.
Well, I think when I sit in my office here and think about my job is to make sure that the American people see publicly what I see from the president every day privately, focused on the economy, creating good-paying jobs, high-tech manufacturing, retirement security. So I don't think the president thinks about it in terms of elections or in terms of his legacy or anything else. I think he thinks about it in terms of making sure that the American people have the access to a good education, to skills and training, to good-paying jobs, the way he did as a young man, and the kind of opportunities that he had as a young man to get the position that he's in now. So that's exactly what we're going to be pushing for over the course of this year, not because of politics, but because the American people deserve the kind of opportunities that he and others have had.
Denis McDonough, Chief of Staff for President Obama, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Nora.
Thank you. CBS News will bring you tonight's State of the Union address and the Republican response. Our coverage begins at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, here on CBS.